Record pig crop driven by record pigs per litter. The USDA's December hogs and pigs report places the December 1st inventory of all hogs and pigs at 75.8 million head, down 0.8% from last quarter, but up 0.5% from last year, compared to an average trade expectation of 0.2% higher. Market hogs mirrored the same expected and reported changes as total inventory, while the breeding herd is up just 0.1% over the prior year as expected. The main surprise is a record September to November pig crop, up more than 2% from a year ago and just above the upper end of the range of pre-report expectations, as a marginal cut in sows farrowed was more than offset by 11.92 pigs per litter, up more than 2% from last year's record for the period, continuing the upward trend in pigs per litter. While this level of productivity growth took the trade by surprise, in part because it's difficult to continually break records by large margins, further productivity growth is feasible as Denmark is recently averaging around 15 pigs per litter. For market hogs, the heaviest weight class is down only 0.5% from a year ago compared to expectations of 1% lower, while the next heaviest group is also down about 0.5% as expected, which suggests a fairly neutral price outlook near term as much of the heaviest class has already gone to slaughter. The lightest two weight classes are each up more than 1% from last year compared to expectations of 0.7% and 0.5% higher, respectively, and these greater than expected increases are a bit bearish for the midterm. Still, there are just 0.8% more hogs weighing under 180 pounds than a year ago, which will arrive at processing plants from January to March of 2025, implying similar supplies as last year for the period overall. The greater than anticipated increases in inventories of lighter weight hogs stems from the unanticipated record September to November pig crop, which also indicates bearishly higher slaughter levels for April through June. Respective slaughter levels should be similar to last year for July through September and higher for the remainder of 2025, given farrowing intentions for this winter nearly identical to actual farrowings a year ago, and those for spring at about 1.4% higher and more than expected. However, this all depends on whether current trends in pigs per litter persist. Cold stocks of pork remain well below pre-COVID-19 pandemic levels. According to the USDA cold storage report, cold stocks of pork on November 30th are down 8% from the prior month and 6% from a year ago. Meanwhile, poultry stocks are down 9% from the prior month and 7% from a year ago, while beef is up 2% from the prior month but down 4% from last year. The USDA pegs U.S. per capita pork consumption at 50.5 pounds per person for 2024 and forecasts the number rising to 50.9 pounds per person in 2025, still below the pre-COVID-19 level of 52.1 pounds per person in 2019. The U.S. exported 583 million pounds of pork in October, or about 1.7% more than the prior October. Mexico accounted for 38.6% of those shipments, around 4.4% lower than a year ago, reflecting the higher wholesale pork prices and a depreciating Mexican peso. Meanwhile, U.S. pork exports for the period are around 51.2% higher to China and Hong Kong and almost 4.9% higher to Japan than a year ago. Projected pork exports are revised downward, reflecting expectations for higher hog and pork prices to persist through 2025. As such, estimated fourth quarter exports are lowered by 35 million pounds to 1.875 billion pounds, or 2.8% higher than a year ago, bringing the total for 2024 to 7.12 billion pounds, or about 4.3% above the 2023 level. Total exports for 2025 are anticipated to be about 2.9% higher. The forecast presented here is for the national weighted average net price on a carcass basis for all transactions for producer-sold barrows and gilts, including negotiated and contract prices. This net price should be more reflective of what producers receive on average and often runs at a premium of more than $2 a hundredweight over the base price on average. From October through December, this net price averaged $85.04 a hundredweight compared to $81.65 a hundredweight for the corresponding net prices for negotiated or spot transactions. In general, hog prices tend to be higher in the second and third quarters, with lower prices in the first and fourth quarters. Consistent with that pattern, this forecast places first quarter prices at about $84.43 a hundredweight, rising to $95.01 a hundredweight and $97.33 a hundredweight by the second and third quarters, respectively, before dropping to $80.61 a hundredweight for the fourth quarter. These projections balance anticipated marginal growth in supplies and domestic demand and declines in exports. If demand erodes or actual increases in farrowings and pigs per litter surpass expectations, then lower prices may be realized. For the University of Illinois and the University of Missouri, I'm Jason Franken.